This week, Mars enters Libra. And when that happens, it ignites this outer planet triangle that's with us all summer. It energizes it, stimulates it, and gets it sort of aloft. This signifies some real movement into a new time, a new era. And I'm excited to talk with you about how Mars is really activating this triangle this week and what it means for you. So let's start here. First, I'm just going to highlight this outer planet triangle. We will discuss it in more detail as we go here. I just want to be sure we're all looking at the same thing. So we can see it here in the chart. And we have Pluto in Aquarius. We have Neptune in Aries, although Saturn is there with Neptune right now. More about that. And we have Uranus here in Gemini. So that's our outer planet triangle. And now check this out. Actually, I need to go ahead and take that all the way through to the end. My hope is that marking the chart is helpful for you if you're studying astrology and you're enjoying learning about astrology, and that following it along helps with clarity and understanding. But if you just enjoy listening to the astrology and that part of it isn't interesting to you and you just want to listen, my hope is that these videos work for you too. I hope that they're working wherever you are in your study with astrology. Okay, so check this out. So we have our outer planet triangle. And now look at the chart from later in the week when Mars comes into Libra. So here we have Mars down here in Libra at 0 degrees, sort of activating this triangle in a very special way. So I actually want to go back to the beginning and where we start at the beginning of the week and kind of just lay it out a piece at a time. I want to start with just this outer planet triangle. And it's weird to say just when it's actually, this formation is really major. It's something that astrologers have been anticipating for years because it involves these outer planets and they are very slow to change signs. So right now, this summer, we have these outer planets in this alignment. And really, this is a little bit of a preview of the next handful of years because these planets will be in these signs until 2033 when Uranus breaks this up and moves on to Cancer. But so you can see that it's quite a big deal. But here's what's crazy. Uranus will re-enter Taurus and break this outer planet triangle up on September 1st. So we're really just having a few months of this now. Then at the end of 2025, it's going to break apart. And then the planets will shift in 2026 and all be in place and really be there until 2033. So this summer is sort of an interesting little preview of what's to come. And really, there's so much that we can say about this triangle, but I'll just say a few things here, and then we'll talk about how Mars is igniting it this week, activating it this week. Really, we are just getting a peek now, a glimpse now. We'll step into this in earnest in 2026. And it going till 2033, does hope to sort of show how significant this is. This is really a future focused thing. And in some ways, it's not fully formed yet. We can only get significations for it on some levels. Also, there's a way in which Neptune can sort of blur our understanding of things. And Pluto can relate to things that are buried. But I do think there's a few things that we can say about the era that this triangle is shifting us into. One thing is a change of power dynamics in the world, and maybe in our lives as well, in terms of systems, how they're structured, who has the authority, who's the leader. One way that we're seeing this is just a change in celebrity culture. Just with the rise of so many different ways, social media, all these different ways of connecting, being a celebrity doesn't really hold the weight that it used to. Individuals having a little bit more of a say over the few. So a change in power dynamics. Technology advancements is definitely something else that this all suggests. Also changes in ways of thinking, ways of communicating, teaching. I think that Uranus and Gemini is really interesting in terms of learning different ways of getting information. And, there's something very sort of bold and new and young about all of it, especially with that Aries energy. So I don't want to say too much about that whole new era, but you can see that it's significant, that it suggests some real changes, not just in the world, but the kind of changes in the world that affect us individually too, right? When we have big shifts like that, it doesn't just move from, it doesn't just affect the outside world, it affects all of us individually too. And as as inner planets, personal planets, the sun, the moon, and Mars, Venus, Mercury come into alignment and form aspects with this triangle, that's part of what sort of moves us there. But this aspect that's coming up at the end of this week, I think we're really going to feel this new era in our lives in a new way. That's why I called it New Era Activate. Let's go ahead and advance now to that chart later in the week once Mars has moved into Libra. You can see how it kind of sets this triangle aloft. This is a loose kite pattern. You can see how it looks like a kite, and Mars is sort of the firing point here of the kite. It's also described as an arrow. I've heard, many different ways that this can be understood. But there are a few things I'm thinking about this. Anytime that a planet comes into this, let me actually mark Mars on the chart here. I think we all are well aware of what we're talking about, but I do think that it helps with clarity. It seems to be helping some people with clarity. It helped me with clarity. So let's actually name these aspects really, really quickly. Mars is opposing Saturn and Neptune. Mars is trining Pluto and Uranus, and Pluto and Uranus are trining each other. And also Pluto is sextile to Saturn and Neptune, and Uranus is sextile to Saturn and Neptune. Such a fun little pattern, isn't it? And you can even look at it and kind of see what I mean about how it's interacting with this triangle. So because it's Mars, there's a little extra sort of launching, doing it, active energy to this configuration than there would be if and when it's another planet. Because every time a planet shifts into Libra, this is what's happening this summer. Mars is making this whole thing, this triangle, pretty tough to ignore this week. And there are a few things I'm thinking about this week and this weekend as a result. I feel like we're moving into this next phase sort of ready or not. It's tough to ignore now. I think we're not just dreaming about the future anymore that we're imagining for ourselves, but we're not fully living it either. It's almost like we're trying it on, like we're trying on the outfit for the party. So we're not really in either stage just yet. I think that this week is an amazing time to take intentional steps toward where you want to go. Now is not a time for random actions, right? Look at this configuration, especially at the end of the week into the weekend. This is a time to be clear, to be pointed, to be intentional, to be forward thinking. Air sign energy, Mars, Pluto, Uranus, alliances can get a boost with this energy. Innovations, new things can get a boost with this energy. The right people, the right ideas, especially new ones, especially old but true ones, they can really get a boost with this kind of energy. I also love how diplomatic Mars in Libra is. Mars in Libra isn't selfish. It considers the whole the other. So this is a good time to be that way as well when thinking about these actions that you're taking and this new stage, this new thing in your life that is starting. But it isn't a time really where we're able to see the big picture. We might not know where everything's going. This isn't a great time for completion, right? It's not about that. It's a time for starting, right? This is activation energy, not completion energy. So don't worry if you can't see the big picture of the whole thing. There is something about Mars and Libra that I think one thing I like about that energy just all by itself that could be playing into that. And especially with this combination, sometimes there can be this way of like fighting for peace, fighting for your peace, fighting for balance, fighting for fairness with the justice energy with Libra, for equity, fighting for beauty in some kind of way. These are things that should be worked into the actions that we take. Caring enough to really be passionate and motivated towards wanting things to feel more peaceful and more harmonious and more right. This is really the beginning of something very interesting. There's some very interesting astrology in the next week or so with this configuration taking root. And we also have a full moon in Aquarius. And the beginning of the week, there's like 2 grand trines in the air. There's a fire trine and a air trine. So there's just a lot of really interesting astrology happening right now. This is the main aspect that I wanted to talk about today. And then this weekend, we'll get into a little bit more with the full moon. And that's also in the reports for August. And I also talk about this outer planet triangle in my October horoscopes, in my July horoscopes. I am thinking ahead in that way. I think when I said October, I was thinking about how we have some really interesting lunations coming up. We're beginning to shift into, we're beginning to think about moving into eclipse season. The eclipses are in September. September's astrology is really wild. I've been working on September horoscopes. I want to show you a little something. Let me move this out of the way. You can see my little amateur setup here out the window. Very pretty and sunny this morning. I don't know if you can really see this. Oh yeah, you can. But this is just my notes for August, right? I don't know if anybody else in the world is still using handwritten notes, But these were my rough notes of the transits in August that I covered in my horoscopes and that then I talk about in these reports. Look at September. Right? September's totally crazy. There's so much going on compared to August, and August is wild. So that's all I wanted to show you. So nice, so beautiful outside. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and thank you so much for being here. I'll attach some other astrology videos that are relevant here at the end.